Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and today I'm going to do a short and sweet video on how I like to pick whatever I want to read next. You will have seen that I never really do TBRs because I just don't know what I might be in the mood for when I want to read something else. So I can definitely not plan out my reading as to I would like to read that in this month. Like, I don't do themes. I really just want to read what I'm in the mood for in the moment. And that also means that, you know, sometimes I will definitely tell myself like, oh, I want to get to this or that. But I don't really do TBRs because it would just be a little bit too stressful for me, because I would get stressed out if I didn't read as much as I thought I was going to, and TBRs are just something that is a level of commitment that I don't really want to get down with because it's just too difficult for me to do. Surely I sometimes have a bit of an idea, but I try to not pin myself down too much, and that has a number of reasons. So let's just get to what I like to do when I want to pick a book to read. So the first reason why I don't really have a TBR and I just like to pick whatever I'm in the mood for is because I worked with set book lists and all that all throughout university, and I remember just reading becoming a chore because of it, and I want to read for my enjoyment and not because someone tells me to do it. So that's why I definitely want to focus on reading what I like and not reading because I think, oh, this is an important book or somebody told me to read it or whatever it is. I still take recommendations for friends and colleagues and all that, and I will read it, but I just, you know, I just don't want to feel like it's something I have to do or I have to get to it because I made this like commitment to myself to try and read that book that month. What I do, so that would be my second sort of step in the process, is that I do sort of decide like, okay, this is a book that I definitely want to read this year, or I definitely would like to get to this series this year. I don't do that with a whole lot of books though, so not enough books to warrant an entire video. I know that some people say like, these are the top 19 books I want to get to in 2019. I don't get to a top 19 books I want to get to in 2019 because that would make up about half of what I read. So I don't want to, again, pin myself down too much. So I definitely had an inkling. One thing that was on my list for this year was the Queen of the Tearling series. I knew I wanted to read that. I knew I wanted to finish up the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas as well. So those are things I've already gotten round to. And I know that at some point this year, I would like to pick up Alexandra Bracken's The Darkest Mind trilogy as well, because that's just been something that's been sitting on my shelf for quite some time and that I just feel I need to get around to. And that's usually how it goes with the way I read. I buy books, but I never read them straight away. I do the same thing with clothes actually, and shoes. I can buy a pair of shoes or like a nice dress, and I may not wear it for months. And not because I don't want to wear it straight away, it's just that I like keeping a certain amount of rotation in what I wear, but also what I read. So I definitely don't get to a book straight away. So I think that it's actually the third thing on the list of how I pick something to read, because I just like to read like within the genres that I like. I don't want to read the same thing over and over and over. So I like having options, and I like to just be able to browse these shelves and find something that I like. Usually once I've read something, I do have a good idea of, okay, that is something that I now like, okay, I've read some fantasy again, let's do something historical fiction. Oh, I've read a little bit of this, so then I go back to that. So I kind of go back and forth between the type of things that I like, and not necessarily because something was released just recently. There are a couple of books that I will prioritize when they come out, and that's any book that is written by Ben Aronovich. He has a novella coming out in June, so I definitely want to get that and then just get to it ASAP. But to be quite honest, I don't really prioritize books just because they're new in. I prioritize books because I just feel like I want to read that kind of book right now. So I definitely spend some time browsing my shelf, sometimes going like, oh, I'm not really sure what I would like to read. Let me have a look. But I usually have a pretty good idea. So that would be number 4 on the list, is when I decide what I would like to read, I kind of have it depend on what I've read before it. So I already mentioned liking to go back and forth between genres. I don't really like reading the same thing all the time, like only hardcore fantasy. And I'm like, because what I find, and that's just me as a reader, I guess it's just something really personal. I find that if I read the same genre a lot in like back to back, I just start seeing old tropes. And I start seeing everything that's wrong with the book. And I don't enjoy the book as much as when I had a little bit of a pause. Like, I enjoy fantasy, but fantasy can also be quite problematic. And there can be a lot of things in there and you go like, really? So it is something that I try to sort of take into account. So I sort of try to keep it fresh and new and exciting for myself as well by making sure that I read a little bit of everything. And when I'm just done with fiction, I don't have a lot of nonfiction books, but I have a little bit of nonfiction sitting here. And then I grab one of those because sometimes I really want to just change it up, sort of like reset myself before I go back to fiction again. And that's just something that I've done ever since I started reading for myself. That's something that I've done for such a long time. In fact, before I even did like Goodreads challenges or like I was trying to get to a certain number in a year, I really wanted to always have something like fun to read, and then I would want to read something more important, like more literature related. That's how I went back and forth. So I've been doing that for years already, and it just really helps with my reading enjoyment to make sure I don't read too much of the same thing back to back, because it just doesn't make it as enjoyable for me. So I know that this video is about picking my next read, so it may not really be in line with this, because the Goodreads reading challenge, I set myself to try and read more. But again, it's also helpful in trying to find out what I would like to read, because I want to get to a certain number of books in the year, which is 50. So roughly a book per week, you could say. But I don't just want to read like easy thrillers or this and that. Like, I have so many different things sitting on my shelves. And I also want to make sure I rotate everything out. So having the Goodreads challenge is really sort of pushing me not only to read more, but also to try out other things that I may not have tried otherwise, because I don't really like staying in my comfort zone. I just don't. So that's sort of like related to that. And do I mean to say then that it's wrong to stay within your comfort zone? Of course not. If you want to stay in your comfort zone, you stay in your comfort zone. But when it comes to picking what to read, I definitely want to just go by whatever it is I have on my shelves. I do need to own it. Like, I never just go to the store to buy a book because I want to read it at that moment in time. I have this system of like holding quite a few books, and then at a certain point in time I'll get to it, you know. And I know I will get to it, because if it's unread by now and I really haven't touched it in like a decade, I made a point of reading some of those books, but there are also quite some books that I then just decluttered from my shelves. So if they're sitting here for too long, I definitely get rid of them. But 9 out of 10 times, all of the books that I have are ones that I'm interested in, things that intrigue me. And that's just something that, yeah, I'm very excited for everything that is on my shelves as well. So I don't really work with a TBR, because sometimes you just want to reread something. And if I were to split it up, then I wouldn't get around to that. So yeah, I tend to really sort of have, like, my bookcases are, like, my shelves are a little bit like a menu in a restaurant, and you can like pick what you would like to eat. I kind of do that with books. So that's why I also have quite a few, and there's quite a bit of unread stuff here, but I just like having options. That's just the way it is. So thank you very much for watching. I know this was a bit of a rambly, random video, but I thought it could be fun to talk you through how I like to pick what book to read next. And yeah, let me know in a comment down below how you pick a next read. Maybe you have any book recommendations for me. I would love to know. Thank you very much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you would like to see more videos by me. And I hope to see you in my next video, which will be up tomorrow, because we're still doing Everyday May. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!